Good morning, guys. Today I wanted to talk to you about the weather missions in Phaenna, the EX plus weather missions. I've heard some conflicting information that this mission is not worth farming. It can't be macroed. I even had someone mention to me that they saw a guide that said this craft is disgusting, don't even attempt it. But I wanted to show you guys a way to go ahead and farm this particular stellar mission if you're inclined to do so. I personally think it's pretty simple. It is macroable with a little bit of a twist, and I'll explain that here in just a moment. First, I'd like to show you guys my melds. This is going to be a specialist rotation, so you will need your soul crystal with your crafter's delineations, and I am using the completed stellar tool, the 750 stellar tool, because of the bonus to the good status. We're going to be doing a lot of touches. It is a 4-step macro, so there will be a lot of touches, and if we get any good status along the way, this tool is only going to boost that touch by tenfold. So it's really a good tool to use other than the pentamelded gold thumbs tool. I prefer the stellar tool for these expert recipes. And if we look at my melds, I melded a little bit differently than a lot of people I see in Phaenna and Sinus Ardorum. A lot of people are melding craftsmanship, and I decided to go the other way. I went with a lot of control and CP. So I will scroll through my melds here briefly, and you can see I have a lot of control and CP on all of my gear. And if we look at my offhand tool, it's also control and CP. And my accessories, the earring, the necklace, the bracelet, are all control and CP. And the rings are a little bit different. The rings, I have a control meld in the guaranteed slot, and then I over melded 3 craftsmanship over melds because the rings can actually hold more craftsmanship than they can control. So I added 3 craftsmanship over melds to the rings, and then finally ended up with CP at the end. Because of course CP, in my opinion, is the most important attribute to have. So I over melded CP completely, 100%. Even on the head, the body, and the hands. Some people don't think that the CP over melds are necessary on these 3 pieces because they're so small. They only give 1 CP and 2 CP each. But when you total them all up, it comes to 5 CP. And 5 CP could be the difference between being able to use an ability and not. So for me personally, my own preference, I overmeld CP completely, 100%. So my stats without food right now are 671 CP. Craftsmanship and control are pretty balanced. Craftsmanship is at 5578 and control is at 5523. I know a lot of people are overmelding craftsmanship, but I wanted to show you guys an alternative way of melding, and this is the way I went ahead and melded my gear. So let's go ahead and use the food and the tea. The food that we're going to be using is the Ali Pebre. I think I pronounced that correctly, hopefully. I don't know, but if not, I apologize. But that's the food we're going to be using, and then the Cunning Craftsman Tisane. And before we do that, let me show you the actual rotation that we're going to be doing. It's these 4 macros here. And for some reason, people think that this craft can't be macroed. It's too difficult. It's too time consuming. It's just a horrible craft to try to complete 100%. But I came up with this rotation, and I think it works really well. So what's interesting about this particular craft is, it is an expert craft, and they give us the option to use an ability called Material Miracle. And Material Miracle guarantees a certain status effect for every single action that you do for 45 seconds. It gives the ability to have status effects such as centered, pliant, primed, malleable, sturdy, and good. But it goes one step above that. What it also does is it removes the excellent status. And that's actually pretty important. That's a good thing in my opinion, because we have so many touches that we're going to be doing across these 4 macros. The last thing we want to happen is to have a poor status on any of our big hitting touches, like preparatory touch or precise touch, something along those lines, advanced touch. And if you get a poor status on one of those, it really kind of cripples your progress. So not only does it provide the abilities that I mentioned earlier, it also removes the excellent status effect for that 45 seconds, which really helps as we're running these macros. Which it doesn't, you would think it doesn't sound like a good thing, but it actually is. Because if you remove excellent, you remove the possibility for poor as well, which is great. So the first macro here, I'll leave it paused for a moment so you can see in case you want to copy this down. We start with a reflect, and then we move into building some progress with some groundworks, and then we go ahead and start building some inner quiet stacks. And then on top of macro number 2, you'll see I put a line up here. This is the command line to use that Material Miracle ability. You can add it to a macro, and I used it at the top of macro number 2 because I want it to affect all of these touches that we're going to be doing for macro number 2, and then it'll also affect these touches for macro number 3 if we use that macro quickly enough. So using that Material Miracle action at the top of macro 2 is going to affect all of these actions as well as the actions for macro number 3, which is great. We get a lot of good status, we get a lot of pliant status. It really helps. And then I added an echo line at the bottom of macro number 3. And this is actually an important line here, because before we use macro number 4 to finish out the craft, these are the requirements that we're going to need in order to 100% the craft before we use macro number 4. We need to have 63 CP left over, which we will, because I built the rotation to guarantee us to have at least 63 CP when we get to this point, so that won't be an issue. We need to have 15 durability, which we will, because again, I built the rotation to guarantee us to have at least 15 durability left over once we get to this point. So these 2 requirements are guaranteed. That's not the issue. The issue is going to be the quality up to this point. The quality, we need 19,480 in order to 100% the craft when we get to macro number 4. Now, since we used Material Miracle at the top of macro number 2, all of these touches are going to be affected in one way or another. We're going to get pliance along the way. We're going to get sturdies along the way. We're going to get goods along the way. And it's really going to affect every single one of these touches as well as the touches in macro number 3. So when we get to this point, we're probably, not 100% guaranteed, but we're probably going to have to use a manual touch in order to get to this 19,480 mark. But we don't know what touch that's going to be. If we have a lot of CP left over because we got 3 or 4 pliant procs, maybe we can use a trained finesse in order to get to this 19,480. If we don't have a lot of CP left, but we have a lot of durability left, if we have 35 or 40 durability left because we had a lot of sturdy procs along the way, we might be able to use hasty touch to try to get to that 19,480 mark. Since we don't have enough CP to use a regular touch, a normal touch like basic or standard, we may have to use hasty touch in order to get to this point, which would also be an option. And you may have a mixture of both. Maybe you have enough durability and enough CP left over to use a prudent touch or a basic touch or a trained finesse. So that's the fun part about this rotation, is before we actually use macro number 4, we're going to have to look at our requirements and see which touch we are going to need to use, if any, in order to get to this 19,480 mark. And once we do, then we can go ahead and finish the craft with macro number 4. Great strides, quick innovation, a God's blessing, and then a careful synthesis. So you'll see how it works when I use the actual rotation themselves. Let's go ahead and buff ourselves up. I'll use the food. I'll use the tea. And let's take a look at our stats one more time. I'm now capped at 798 CP. That's the most CP you could have on your crafter, because I capped CP in every piece of gear that I have equipped. And our craftsmanship is still the same, 5578, and our control jumped up to 5638. So let's go ahead and start the craft. It's the weather missions, the EX Plus weather missions. So let's go ahead and give this a try. So let's run macro number 1, and we'll follow along with the macro. We'll use a reflect, a veneration, 2 groundworks, a prudent synth. Now we're going to use a heart and soul for a big intensive synthesis, a careful synth. Now we need to immaculate mend. We're going to use innovation, and then a delicate synth, and then the basic standard advanced touch combo. All right, now here comes macro number 2, and this is when we're going to use Material Miracle at the top, and you'll see it's going to affect all of our touches that come afterwards. And here we go. Material Miracle, innovation, prudent touch, another basic standard advanced touch combo, now we're going to do an immaculate mend, and then a trained perfection with a great strides and an innovation for a big preparatory touch. And now a basic standard advanced touch combo. Now we'll use macro number 3, innovation, and then another basic standard advanced touch combo. So now that we're done with macro number 3, let's take a look at this echo that popped up in the bottom of my chat log here. And let's make sure that we have these requirements in order to run macro number 4. It says we need 63 CP, which we do. We have 75, which is great. It says we need 15 durability, which we do. We have 40 durability left over, which means we had some sturdy procs along the way, which is great. And we need 19,480 quality in order to 100% the craft. And we got 19,911. So we're in good shape. So this is great. So now we just run macro number 4. We'll execute that. Great strides, quick innovation, and then a God's blessing, and a careful synth. There you go, guys. Simple. Now we need to make 2 in order to complete the mission. So let's run it back. Macro number 1. Reflect. Veneration. 2 groundworks. A prudent synth. Heart and soul for a big intensive synthesis. Then a careful synth. Now immaculate mend. Innovation. And then delicate synth and the basic standard advanced touch combo. Okay. Macro number 2. And we're going to use that Material Miracle. That's the first action on the top of macro number 2 that you see. Material Miracle, Innovation, Prudent Touch, and then another combo, Basic, Standard, Advanced. Immaculate Mend, Train Perfection, and then our buffs, Great Strides and Innovation for a big preparatory touch. And then a basic, standard, advanced combo. And we'll run macro number 3, Innovation, basic, standard, advanced combo again. Now let's check our stats again. It says we need 63 CP, which we have. We have 87. We need 15 durability, which we also have. 25 durability left. And we need 19,480 quality, and we have 20,135. So we're good to go. We are good to run macro number 4. Now let's say we didn't have enough quality. Let's say we only had 19,000, for example, and we need another 480 quality in order to get up to where we need to be. Well, let's take a look at what we can do. We have 63 CP left. We need 63 CP, excuse me, to run macro number 4, and we have 87. So 87 minus 63 is 24 CP. So we have 24 CP that we can play with. We need 15 durability. We have 25. So we have 10 durability we can play with, and we need about, let's say, 480 points. Well, we can use a basic touch. If we use a basic touch, we just got 924 points. And we still have the 63 CP that we need, because we have a total of 69. We have 15 durability. And then we just boosted our quality up a little bit more. So now we're good to run macro number 4. Great Strides, Quick Innovation, Byregot's Blessing, and a Careful Synth. And there you go. 100%, guys. Really quite simple. It is a 4-step macro, so there's really no way around it. If you want to be able to macro this stellar mission, you're basically going to need a 4-step macro. You could probably knock it down to 3 steps if you just want to get silver status and just combine 3 and 4, steps 3 and 4 if you want to. But I kind of like to break it up a little bit and throw that little extra manual touch in there, looking at my requirements, and it kind of makes it fun. So you turn in the mission, and you can see we got 1,095 cosmic class points. And I'm assuming right now we're on stage 7 of the Phaenna rebuild, or the Phaenna colonization, I guess you could say. Once we get to the end of the stages, I'm assuming the class points will be similar to the moon, if not more, probably 1,500 or 1,600 class points, if not more. And we also got 110 Phaenna Explorer tokens if you still want to farm for your Cosmo board. So A lot of people are saying this mission is just not worth it. I really kind of enjoy it. I think it's a fun mission to do. It is macroable, as I just showed you, with a little bit of a twist. You may have to throw a manual touch between macros 3 and 4, but that's the fun part about it. It makes it interesting and fun, in my opinion. So I hope that helped. Hope you guys enjoyed that quick little guide on how to do these weather missions. And of course, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them as best I can. Have a great day, guys, and happy crafting.